Hey, Off-Season After Dark fans, welcome here to episode 22. And we have another SEC episode. So, outside of our normal circle, we have covered Mississippi State so far, and this will be our next school. We're Arkansas. So, we're having Porter here from the Hawg Talk to talk some Razorback football, how their season is going, and I think importantly for a lot of us, how the coaching search is going and what we expect to happen there. So, Porter, thanks for being here. Tell the people a little bit about where they can find you and what got you into the space and what you do.
Appreciate you having me on. Started about 2019. Really wanted to get into. I've always been into sports, and I tried to. My major in college was journalism, but back this 2000, there was no podcasting. It was just speaking and writing. I'm not a writer. So, and wasn't a college student at all. So actually, later on in life, was just following it. And honestly, it was the first go around when the SEC women's tournament was in Greenville. I had started following the Razorbacks, and I somehow linked up with a good friend of mine, Tyler Butler. He's out of South Carolina, does sports and culture. And I was feeding him stats. And so we linked up, and then I got with the original co-hosts of the Hawg Talk and was letting them know, hey, look, I'm actually a Clemson fan, live in Arkansas. So if you ever need a guy to come on and just give an, bird's eye view of things. And one thing led to another and ended up being the full-time co-host. Me and Adam Hall do it now. Yeah. And we've been rolling about 3 years now, but it's always had a passion for sports and talking about sports and, getting to do it and not be a hobby. It's actually been really cool. I started with an iPhone and Zoom now, as I have a studio above my garage now. So it's been a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. Now, are you guys, like I'm football only, are you guys covering all Arkansas sports, basketball, baseball?
Oh, yeah. We do year round, summer. We do 2 shows a week. During football, basketball season, we'll go Sunday, Thursdays, but then during the summer, we might go once a week, or we switch our Sunday to a Monday night. That way we can, enjoy the weekend and, when it's downtime. And it all depends on how the baseball team does. This last year was brutal because it was like 2 full months, and we'll talk about the football team, but, leading into that, you're like, oh, you're not really sure about what's going to happen. There was nothing to look forward to with the football program. So, it made for a long summer, but, that's what you have to deal with,
Absolutely. Yeah. And they had a good run. And for me, I do football year round. So which when you're pulling people from all fan bases, it's not as difficult to do. Yeah. So I'd started in June, and that's just kind of how I operate. But let's jump into Razorbacks this year. Obviously not the season you guys have been hoping for. 2-7, maybe the only 2-7 team I've ever heard of who's outscoring their opponents. If you look at net score, I mean, it's wild. The big 2 blowout wins, and then other than Notre Dame, been pretty competitive in every game. But going into this season, were your obviously the expectations were higher than what has happened. What did you expect going into the year? What did you hope would happen?
Man, I was one of the few that, I wouldn't say few because there was some, I think Hunter Yurachek should have pulled the trigger on Sam Pittman last year. Because now look at where we're at with all these openings in the SEC. They're all, NIL. Oh, but you try to let it ride, but then again, it's like, okay, let's see if we can sneak Bobby Petrino in as the OC. Let's get all the PR stuff out of the way from what happened the last go around. And if things don't go well with Sam, hey, we got this good backup plan. Well, that backup plan failed. We didn't think we were looking at it as a Band-Aid. And the Band-Aid, the gash was too big for the Band-Aid to cover.
Good way to put it.
And Sam is a good old boy. Everybody, he is loved, and he was a good guy. He just wasn't cut out to coach, head coach. And I think Bobby Petrino's way past his time. I think just it's a different era. But we were hoping that, okay, if this thing didn't really work out with Sam, at least he can bridge us into we can move forward. But now the biggest part of it too is we have an athletic director that does not embrace the NIL. And there's been, I mean, we could do a whole episode on what my thoughts are on just everything that's went wrong with that.
Okay.
You know, you're supposed to be the AD, and we have no sponsor on our stadium. We do not have a legit stadium name right now. That was a year ago.
Is it not Reynolds anymore?
No, that sponsorship expired, and so now they do not have a sponsor, and there's no sponsor in the near future. We don't know, and him having to outsource everything. He's using Learfield to do this and that. You know, you were the very first collective with the Arkansas Edge. It is no more. They got caught up in that blueprint stuff, and so now they don't even have an NIL collective anymore. We had a raffle, the Razorback raffle, that's intact. There was a casino in Arkansas that wanted to do it all pro bono and do it, and it would make money. Well, they rejected that, and then they ended up doing their own raffle. And the first one was really good during baseball, but it's inflated, because you can't tell me that on Friday the winning pot, now granted this is a D1 SEC school, the winning pot was at $1,900, and now it was at $24,000. But during baseball it was like 150, 170,000. Like, this could be, you know, and they're wanting the half of it to go to NIL. Well, this one, half of it goes to a fan and half of it goes to the Razorback Foundation, where you don't know where that money's going.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of fumbles. There's like the Arkansas football team this year, a lot of fumbles, and I'm not a fan of it. And if you want to embrace, or if you want to move forward, and we've talked off air about, you know, our personal teams, if you want to move forward with how things are going in the landscape of college football, you have to embrace NIL. And Clemson doesn't want to do it. Arkansas doesn't want to do it, and they're going to be left behind. Yes. Moving next season, you're going to 9 SEC games, and now you've been surpassed by everybody. I mean, you used to be a middle of the pack SEC team. Now you're the laughing stock of the SEC, and you're back in the Chad Morris era.
And funny you say that, because I was, you know, for a while, up until recently, I gave Pittman credit, and my thought was, at least it's a better job than when he took it over. The Chad Morris years were awful. Mm-hmm. He inherited a bad situation. He elevated it. But then they regressed quite a bit in the end, and it's still probably better than when he inherited it. But it's not as good as it would have been had you made the move last offseason. Like you had mentioned you would wanted to, where you would have had certainly better candidates and not been as far down the pecking order, most likely, of other conference teams. Where right now, you know, there's 4 SEC openings. I think about everybody would say they're probably 4th in the order of those schools.
And I think NIL has a lot to do with that, because it's like you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you know, Rhett Lashley reports, or allegedly or reportedly, saying that the time wasn't right for him to come to Arkansas, but he played high school in Arkansas. He played college for Arkansas. Like, there's a lot of pressure. Me and my co-host Adam talked about that last night. There was an immense pressure of, one, you're already an in-state guy coming back into this situation, and you're not trying to build the program, you're rebuilding it from scratch. And
he was a guy I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I don't blame him, because I think it would have been too much, because the first time you go 6 wins, 7 wins, or 5, he couldn't cut it. He was at SMU. And then, you know, link Chad Morris to SMU and the PTSD with that. It's going to take somebody who's going to get the NIL, embrace it, bring in some coordinators, and honestly, and if you want me to ask, and we can segue into that, my thoughts is, as long as we have the current administration and athletic director, you could bring in Nick Saban to coach the Razorbacks and they would still fail, because it's going to take money. It's going to take a good coach, coordinators. And as long as he's at the head of this thing, I don't trust anybody that he brings in, because there's been a lot of talk about James Franklin, but if you don't have the support, I don't see how it's going to work.
So let's talk about that a little. I pulled up some odds here that I found for to be the next head coach. Lashley, I think, is where we have to start. I mean, he seemed like the obvious guy from the outset. He's a guy you make him say no, and I think he will. Especially 3 days ago, SMU gave him an extension. Being private, they don't have to disclose the amount, but it was said that he is now one of the 10 highest paid coaches in America on a 7-year deal, and that would mean he's making at least $10.1 million a year.
Yeah,
if he's one of the 10 highest paid. And despite all the big schools in Texas, they're right near the top with the amount of money at their disposal. They will spare no expense for him.
Money.
Yep. And it's a significantly easier path to the playoffs every year as well if you're at SMU. I mean, if I was him, I might have taken it last year. I don't think I would right now, and I don't think he will right now.
No, well, that's the same thing. James Franken's linked to the Virginia Tech job, whether he takes it or not, or if that was all smoke. Look at the path in the ACC compared to the path in the SEC. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Looking at the other, guys at the top of this list, what are your thoughts on Silverfield?
I mean, you got to give him respect to go in and we couldn't beat him. So, you're looking at someone who is at Memphis and you're trying to, I think I get him and Summerall mixed up at Tulane and Memphis coach, but
I mean, this will be his third year in a row with double-digit wins at Memphis. That's pretty good.
So he's done his job. To me personally, I say I'm not a Razorback fan, but it's funny how I've lived here all my life and I've seen all this. It's going to take somebody who's ready to handle this job. Does he bring the flash and the know-how? Because SEC is different kind of ball. It's different.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is. So I think if he could get the boosters behind him and get it rolling, bring in some coordinators, he could be a good job. Him and Summerall could both be that. They're in the same tier for me when it comes to.
Yeah,
I think that if they had the support, could they get it done in Arkansas?
I agree. And Summerall is another guy who, in talking about last year to this year with openings, Summerall's a much hotter name this year, and you're facing more competition for a guy like him. His name has popped up for Auburn. He is a Kentucky graduate. If they go in a different direction, he'll certainly be the first call Kentucky would make, to replace.
Well, an LSU job just opened up too. So
exactly,
not having to move your family far or if all, that's the thing is it seems like Arkansas is always the first of the party and they're the ones holding the flowers at the end, just waiting to get a date. They just can't. When I brought up the collective, you're the first one to brag about having this collective. You're one of the first ones that even mentioned having a raffle. Then that didn't happen, So again, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah. Kinney, is the next one on the list, and Texas State came here. I would be shocked if it's Kinney at this point. Yeah. They've been so disappointed. I mean, they haven't won a conference game yet for a team who was picked to be first or second in the Sun Belt West, because we still do divisions here. They're 3-5 and 0-4 in the conference. I don't think he's moving this year. And of course, Texas State is going to the Mountain West next year. How do you feel about Gus? Coming back in state, he's a name that.
No,
I wouldn't like it for you guys, but some people talk about him.
Well, and again, that's the nostalgia. Let's just, and I don't know how familiar you are with Arkansas and everything. Okay, Lashley, Malzahn, Petrino, Traylor, Gruden, Odom, Barry Lunny Jr. all have Arkansas ties. Have either, because Gruden's dad coached there. Barry Lunny Jr. played quarterback there. Barry Odom used to be the coordinator there. Traylor used to be a coordinator here. And Malzahn was his deal goes back to the Nut days. That whole situation with when Mitch Mustaine was here in the Springdale 5 and Gus
was Traylor an assistant when Gus was the coordinator, or did Traylor
was
come
the
after?
assistant. Traylor was after. He was here, in the last regime. But you had Gus was a coordinator under. He was never the head coach. He was a coordinator under.
Yeah, I knew that. Yes.
So there was a big power struggle with that whole situation, and it was crazy how he pretty much brought his high school team, and freshman quarterback starts 8-0, and then the wheels fell off.
Yeah.
So the bridge has been burnt on that one. So I just think, and plus, I mean, he's way late into his career. We need somebody come in here that's going to come in here for at least 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
If you can't get us to the college football playoffs, at least get us in the position where the next guy can. This is a very, very, very important time for the head coach, because like I said, it's either going to take somebody to get you to that 7-8 win hump, and that's where they leave you, or you're going to have somebody come in that can 2-3 years, like in Indiana or Arizona State or Vandy, get you to where you can compete for the college football playoff.
Yeah. And even Clark Lee struggled for 3 years before having a good year in year 4. I mean, it's tough to do overnight in the SEC and Big Ten.
I'm interested to see what Clark Lee does post Pavia.
Yes.
When you look at football and you look at Jimbo was made from Jameis Winston. I mean, guaranteed $75 million. What has he done since? What has Dabo done since Venables and Elliott and Trevor Lawrence left?
Well, yeah, he was good when he had Deshaun Watson and Lawrence, and not great since then.
So that's, to me, I want to see what happens. And I'll bring this up. Everybody's on Franklin, and I am, but you look at his record at Penn State, and you look at Bob and Brett Bielema's record at Wisconsin, very similar. Yes, he did great when he was at Vandy. I'm not taking that away from him.
Yeah. But
when you look at the conference record of the teams that he beat when he was at Vandy, it was, I believe, 9-30 and 12-31 those years.
Wasn't good. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yes, it was great, but when you look at the grand scheme of really, okay, he did good, but is he going to replicate that at Arkansas? Is he going to? This isn't, and you're looking at the East when Vandy was in the East. There's no more East. So you're going to be coming in and taking over a program on the same level as Vandy. And can you develop that into an 8-9 win team when you're playing Alabama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, week after week after week after week? That's the question. Who's going to be able to do that?
Yeah. To that tangent question there, who are the 3 permanent games that that Arkansas got?
It is Missouri, A&M, and Texas.
Okay. Gamecocks got Georgia, Florida, Kentucky.
Yeah.
For theirs.
So the thing is, you haven't beaten A&M, but I think once since they joined the SEC, huge, I think 1 or 2 times with Missouri, you've had better record against Texas than those other 2.
Yeah.
In the past. So you didn't get any gimmies.
I never thought of it that way, but that's fair. One guy that I wanted to bring up who I think would be a good hire, but there is some risk with it, Eric Morris, doing very well at North Texas, was at Texas Tech before, Wazoo, head coach at Incarnate Word. How would you feel about him at this point?
I think that would be a great option.
Would you put him and Alex Golish kind of in that same realm, both American conference coaches?
Oh, yeah.
I would too. Yeah.
I just, man, and I know I speak down on Franklin, but to me, it's like, I think that's the best option. I think that's the best option of the names, because it's going to take somebody with thick skin that can come in and turn around a program. I don't know. You've seen it happen with, Indiana and what Dillingham did at Arizona State. You've seen Clark Lee, what he's done coming from it, but a lot of them's either been a great head coach or they've been defensive coordinators.
Yes.
That has come in and made a difference. So if these guys can come in and get lightning in a bottle, have a little luck, but you got to have the support, because look, Arkansas is a unique, other than I think Nebraska, maybe. I don't know of many others. You don't compete with anybody. There's no pro teams in the state. You have minor league baseball, but you don't have pro teams. There's no other major college in the state. Arkansas is it. You could come in and take this team to 210. Look at Bobby Petrino. They brought him back because he won 10 and 11 games. I mean, they wanted to build the man a statue, which if that's what you can do, you can do that. When they named Bobby Petrino the offensive coordinator, Arkansas was playing Duke in basketball that night, and they flew a plane over the Bud Walton Arena saying, "Welcome back, Bobby." If that tells you,
know that. I didn't know that. Yeah,
anything. They were playing Duke.
Okay,
and that's how Arkansas is so desperate for new stuff to happen and go well for them, because they have. I mean, it's in any sport, whether it's basketball, football, or baseball. The 18 game against Oregon State and the drop foul ball, the Stoner flumble against Tennessee in '98, Reggie Fish, against Florida. Yeah. There's been so many things that have went wrong. It's like Charlie Brown and the football. We're going to be good. We're on the cusp, and then yank. That's where the fans are. So
I do remember the one good one, the 4th and 26 against Ole Miss or whatever it was. Yeah.
So they've had their luck, but they just can't seem to catch that break. And so what you always
even in baseball last year, one of the best games I've ever seen. What a way to go out though at the end.
Arkansas, Hog's gonna hog. We have a motto here: Hog's gonna hog, and so they're desperate. So you have to go back to when we were good and bring up the good memories, and that's what he's attached to. Either that or Darren McFadden. That's the two we have. Yeah. So we really need somebody to come in who wants to come in and change this around, because it's gonna be a tough job.
Yes,
with the new alignment. But the good thing is, if this thing goes to 16 teams, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You don't have to worry about, is this team going to be stuck at the bottom? College football teams can be rebuilt in 3 years now, opposed to 6 or 7, and you're really taking a big gamble. That's my biggest hope, is if you could bring any of those guys on that list, and if you gave them the right amount of money and the right coordinators, you brought in the right system, anything's possible. But there's a lot of those names on that list. I'm just like, like Barry Odom, Gus Malzahn. Does Lashley's relationship with Malzahn, does that coincide with him not wanting to come be the head coach at Arkansas? Because he played high school. That was his high school coach, and then he played.
And with Odom, do you want to leave Purdue after just 1 year too? Yeah. Some guys think that's a bad career move. One guy that wasn't on the list, but whose name I've heard mentioned here and there, Dan Mullen. What would you think about him? It's another guy who is in his first year at UNLV, but you might leave there for Arkansas, where Purdue being in Big Ten is a different story.
Yeah. It would be a risk, but if and he did do well at Florida, it's just,
and Mississippi State.
Where is he at on the tenure? Because here's the thing. Another thing is, Arkansas is very well known for writing these retirement checks. They bring these guys in, John L. Smith, the Pittman, Chad Morris, and these buyouts. That's why I don't think I want John Gruden. Is he can do all this stuff. He can do all these unboxing and this social media stuff, but is he really here to coach, or is he wanting that check? Does he smell blood in the water?
Mullen is 53, which could be right on that gray area of, do you want to do this for the long haul, or do you want to work for 3 years and then not work again ever except on TV?
Then again, if you give us 3-4 good years and you leave us in a good spot, you don't leave on bad terms. Hey, look, come in and turn this thing around for $7 million a year, and we'll get this thing going. And then you bring somebody in like maybe Lashley's ready in 3 years, maybe Small's still where you're at, or the next up and comer that's ready for this.
I think that's a great attitude. Yeah. And it's when they had hired Pittman, my mindset, and a lot of people didn't really know a lot about him, including myself, for as much as I followed the coaching carousel. Well, you knew he was the O-line at a really good program. That was about all we knew.
Yeah.
And it was okay. This isn't about right now. He's an older guy. He's going to right the ship. He's going to set it up for the next guy. do you want to repeat that with another elder statesman hire, or do you want to go for a younger guy who you might have for longer, but maybe he turns them around and goes to another job too? You don't know at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the things that was like a Netflix series that went a little bit too long. You know, you tried to squeeze as much as you could out of it, and that's what we were hoping with Sam. All right, he's going to come in. He loves the state of Arkansas. He can recruit. He's O-line guru. And again, I just don't think that he was cut out for the job. There was a lot of monotone questions after press conferences. There was a lot of I don't know, but there was a lot of animosity with the media and them, because you couldn't say anything negative. If you said anything negative, I mean, they were threats. And then, you know, you have your propaganda machines at any university, and they'd be like, oh, no. You know, they would never do that. They did. And, you know, it's just those things that there was always, he was a good politician. He was a good used car salesman when it came to the love of this, however he wanted to portray himself. And you had things go your way when it comes to these media outlets that ride or die. So it was never meant to cut out. It was meant to get us to that next level. But that's the thing where we're at. We're.
I agree. I think that's a great way to put it. That, you know, to piggyback on what we said before. Yeah, they're probably better than when he took over, but that bar was really low.
Yeah,
you're not where you expected to be when his time was done. I think that's very fair. Looking around at the other head coaching openings, both in the conference and the other power conferences, what are some of the jobs that catch your eye? Obviously, LSU is a big one across the nation, probably the biggest.
Man,
do you have any names or anything, any feelings about the other jobs in the conference to start with?
Man, LSU, it's almost you had Brian Kelly. He just wasn't a good fit. But, and this is going to make a lot of LSU fans mad, and they're going to get salty because I'm an Arkansas fan and I know how I think they sold their soul to the devil to win everything in 19. You had
and my thing for them is you never gave Brian Kelly a chance as one. Sorry to cut you off, but it's like,
I just don't
you
think
guys never gave him a chance.
But I think he was another Jimbo Fisher. I don't think he was good enough to get LSU where sometimes these head coaches need to check their egos. That they really need to. I think Kelly's one of them. I think Dabo's another one. You know, I am not
a lot of fan bases need to do that too, I think.
Yeah. But I know the expectations at LSU is 4 years win a national championship. But you know what? You're at a place where that can happen. You have the money, you have the recruits, you have the pipeline, you have the championship pedigree. And we tried to tell them, Notre Dame fans, that's not the fit. It's something about these Big Ten coaches that try to come into the SEC. They have trouble doing it. And you look at Urban Meyer. He was at Florida first and then went to Ohio State. You see, it takes a different.
He's also an Ohio guy. He knew what it was like there.
Yes. So, but it's a different world. And I think now that we're starting to see this mad scramble with NIL and the transfer portal, these jobs like Alabama, you know, we didn't think they'd bounce back, but they are. But you're seeing a lot.
And as much as they've bounced back, if they lose 2 or 3 games in quick succession, they'll be back against the wall again. That could turn in a heart.
Oh yeah, every team does that. You know, that's funny. I mean, it's the fact that they're still relevant, but you're seeing a lot of schools that they're not used to this, because what happens when Kirby loses 2 or 3 games?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, the bar has been raised. The standard is different now because they're wanting to go to 12, 16 teams. If you can make it when it's 4, you should make it if there's 12 or 16. And if you don't, we'll find somebody who will.
I think that's a great way to put it. Yeah. It's as the field has expanded, the expectations of those schools has also grown with it, and which is probably both fair and logical, but also it's illogical in some ways too, because you can't just make it grow like that. It's not how it works. We talked about Summerall being in state there, and you had brought up a good point with, the administration in Arkansas. Those problems might pale in comparison to the admin problems at LSU right now, where you don't have an AD, you don't have a president, and the governor might be running the show right now. I think they still get a very good head coach. It's still a very good job. I don't know that they get a top quality AD at this point. You might have to lower the expectations there and get a lesser AD than what you nominally might look for because of the overreach we've seen from the political side of things there.
I think we are starting to see just how much money college football is. And when players started getting paid, the people who were getting all the money are now having to share their pot with the players, and they want to try to compensate that. And you have ADs that are stepping out of their lane. You have coaches stepping out of their lane, and players do the same thing. But as soon as the NCAA made this a business, the players deserve to get paid. And I don't, there should be a cap. There should be. But if these boosters and these people are willing to pay, just like buyouts, I don't think there should be buyouts, but there is. So what's the difference between buyouts and this quarterback making $2 million a year? It's the same thing. So I've never heard of a job that you could suck at your job so much and then get $60 million to walk away. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you'd be right if they were year-to-year contracts, but the coaches wouldn't like that. Their agents aren't going to like that. So it's not. I don't know that we can put that genie back in the bottle because you're only going to give me a 1-year deal. No, I'm not going there. And until that changes, the buyouts aren't going to change.
Yeah, I just don't think that they should be 7-8 years. That's where it gets ridiculous because the landscape can change.
It can.
And one recruiting
and it's on both sides to change that. Yeah.
And that's the difference. The football players, it is year to year. I'm not saying because it does take 2-3 years. I think you should go 3 years. And I think there should be stipulations on these buyouts. If you're not doing good at your job, you're not winning games, there should be a hefty fine that you have to pay with that buyout. I don't think it should be guaranteed. I have a hard problem because guess what? That sets you up. You're going into this job. I could come in and half-ass this thing and I still walk away with 50. You're not going to put the same effort as if it is a scale of I have something to achieve. If you have a chip on your shoulder, it's easy to sit there and climb to the top, but it's harder to stay there. And for these people who get to the top, it's harder to stay at the top. We've seen, look at the demise of Clemson and how much they've fallen. Yeah. Last year, you're in the college football playoff. You've won 2 national championships. You've 3 other national championship games. And now you're fighting, probably not even going to make a bowl game.
It is wild that the Palmetto Bowl might come down to bowl eligibility for those 2 teams. We might be having 2 5-win teams playing in that game.
Yeah, but that's granted that Clemson has to play Louisville and Florida State to get there.
Yeah.
So it's a big mess, and where we are with Arkansas, it's crazy that we're in November, but the hire of Musselman, the hire of Pittman, and the hire of Cal all came out of left field at the last moment. I could sit here and throw out 2 or 3 names, and it's somebody that we haven't even heard. Good buddy of mine was on the radio talking about Will Stein, the offensive coordinator in Oregon. Name I didn't even heard of, but that's new name that's thrown in the hat. So, and we have plane trackers here in Arkansas. So there was a plane that went and filled up in Utah and then went to Oregon. So but you have these plane trackers that are tracking this stuff.
He's he was a Jeff Traylor coordinator before going to Oregon. So he UTSA guy, played at Louisville. And he's, highly thought of. I don't know that I would hire a first-time head coach if I was any SEC team right now. Like it's a big risk, and the stakes are too high at a lot of these gigs. It's, we're hearing Glenn Schumann's name for some of the SEC jobs.
Yeah,
he's done well, though. This year they're not great on defense, and I don't know that I would risk it as a SEC or Big Ten school on a first-time hire. There's a lot at stake there.
Yeah, it's because we are in a different world and we are dealing with money. You are dealing with and I do feel for the coaches because you're dealing with, there's no more spring games because you can't have a spring game because you're so worried about, and now we'll see how that changes with that second portal window. I think that was the thing that it wasn't NIL so much. It was the fact that you could recruit year round pretty much. Yeah. This kid could do a spring game and then he's snatched off. You've got all this off season and spring game with this team, and then he leaves. Bowl games, yeah. I think the window how it is now. Let's see how this works out.
I agree. I want to see how it looks.
But I think they should play in the bowl game. It's the thing that with your contract and you are still a part of this team, the season's not over. You should play in this game. I think they took something that happened to that a Michigan player a long time ago where he got hurt, and they used that for now everybody else this is a meaningless bowl game. I'm going to sit out. It just, but then again, they allow them to do it, so we can't really blame them for it. I just don't think they should be able to.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Was it Michigan? I thought it was Notre Dame, but you might have been right about it.
It was Michigan. It was Jake Butt, I believe.
Okay. I was thinking it was the linebacker from Notre Dame, that Koromoa, but yeah, you certainly could be right about that. I always ask a few questions as we're doing the outro here. So look at the SEC. Now that we have 4 openings, most of the guys that were on the hot seat are gone. Who do you think right now is on the hottest seat in the conference?
Right now, still there?
Still there, yes.
Stoops.
Okay.
but
no, you're right.
It
has
who's
to be.
Left?
I know.
Point, who's left? Yeah. Who is left in the hot seat? Yeah. There's one other one, really. Everybody else is already fired.
Yeah.
If you'd asked us this 6 weeks ago, we could have sat there and thrown darts. Yeah. But right now,
you can't.
Everybody's fired. And this is going to be a crazy offseason, and who gets who and who goes where. It's going to be musical chairs, and it's going to be like I've never seen the SEC scramble like this when it comes to if things aren't to expectations, boom, you're gone. The Brian Kelly thing, all these people, and that could have been Arkansas laying the first domino down and the rest of them's falling. But I seen what Arkansas was doing that first bye week. At least if this thing we can sit there and try to get Bobby settled in and then go. And I didn't even expect it to be this bad, but it's just okay. You can't catch it.
Nobody did. No, nobody did. Yeah.
And these 1-score games, bless their hearts, it just they can't seem. I mean, as soon as I was at a game, and as soon as I seen it was a 1-score game, I was like, oh, Arkansas lost it. We just have
their D-line has been so bad this year. Everybody can run on them.
Yeah, and even last week when the defense played really good, they held them to 6 field goals. Taylor Green those 3 picks. It's just, and I'm not too sold on him as being that he's great with his legs, but he cannot throw on the run. He can't make he cannot make all these great decisions that you need to, if you're supposed to be considered one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, you've got to make better decisions than what he is.
No, I think you're right. Absolutely right about that. One other question I always ask, what coach in the conference do you think is primed to take a bigger job? Whether it be this offseason or in a year or two with the right amount of wins. The one I've thrown out since summer, Eli Drinkwitz, which I think might happen this year. If maybe he decides to stay, but I think he'd be a good candidate for. He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah. The easy one would be Lane, but if Lane gets in the college football playoff, why would you leave now?
Agreed.
The goal is to
I think he might stay now.
Playoff, and he's at a spot where he has the resources. He's been tempted to leave, but I think his personality, how he is, and he's got his foundation set. The people tolerate him there. I'm not saying he's doing anything bad. I'm just saying with his antics and his pettiness and everything, It fits there. No disrespect to anybody at Ole Miss. It's not meant that way. It fits.
And you lose that grace potential if you go somewhere else.
I don't think that would fit at LSU. The first time
especially at LSU, I think you're right. Yeah.
We get snarky with AD or the media. How is that going to be perceived if he goes to Florida? I honestly I think that would be a good fit for Arkansas. I think I'm not saying he would take it because of where they are, but I think he would bring that flash and that hunger to Arkansas. He would get the boosters. He would have, I think if he came, because the nostalgia of his dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And everything around that, knowing you can get there on the cusp, I would take him, but I don't know if he wants to come. But that would be one that I would put. But yeah, Drink, I could see him because how at Missouri you have this success, but yet you haven't already elevated yourself to that level, blows my mind. And I think that he's going to be like a Dillingham, great coach, got the team to the college football playoff. And he is pretty much telling his players, hit the portal because we don't have the money for you.
Yeah. And so I think he could be, being a former Auburn assistant and then also Florida interested. I think there's a good chance. And I think Jed Fish at Washington might end up being the Florida guy, being an alumni, but we'll see. I mean, it'll be last question I'll ask you. I always ask everybody, what two teams are going to play for the SEC title game? And then who's going to go to the playoff from the SEC? It's a tough one. I think A&M Alabama is probably my pick for the conference title game.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can go with that. And then, man, that's a toss up after that. I mean, because Alabama's playing the best ball right now. And A&M is too, but I think that's going to be an absolute war. Georgia, I think they do, and I think Ole Miss gets in there. I think this is finally the year they get in the college football playoff. Tennessee is, we were talking to the Tennessee, in Tennessee, Ole Miss is on the same level. They're on the brink of getting to the college football playoff. Then you have right below them Missouri. They're good, but you never really think they have a legitimate shot to get there. And Texas A&M is on that level, but they're proving they're going to make the college football playoff. So now you have
Oklahoma's like that too. When Mateer's healthy, they're legit. Yeah. They're not as good when he wasn't, fully healthy.
They finally give Venables a chance to get that defense rolling, and that's another one of them schools where he's home. You can get the money. Gundy's out at Oklahoma State, so there's really you have the whole state of Oklahoma pretty much in Texas because of the Red River rivalry. But yeah, I would say A&M Alabama, and then A&M Alabama, and then let's go Georgia, Ole Miss. 4 teams.
I agree with you on those 4 as well. And I was lower on Georgia for a long time. The way they've been playing the last couple weeks, though, I don't think they lose more than 1 game. So I think they get in the playoffs.
I think they have a little help. Because here's the thing. I think that's the fact that they were the backbone, because when Saban left, Kirby was the new Saban.
Yep.
And I will say this too. If Clemson wouldn't have beaten SMU, or I'll take it back, if Syracuse wouldn't have beaten Miami last year, Alabama would have been in the college football playoff. They would have done anything they could to put Alabama in the college football playoff.
Yes.
But they had no choice, and they couldn't, because Clemson then turned, beat SMU, won the ACC, and that took their spot. But so I think that's the thing is, you're thinking about a money issue. You're hearing all this stuff about the referees going on. College players can now bet on NFL game. There's too much messiness, and it's almost like they're not trying to hide it anymore. So I give Georgia that benefit. Now, they're a good team, but I just think they're having a little help. They're like the Chiefs of the college football landscape.
And I think when they start playing good teams that can throw well, I don't see them as they could beat anybody. I don't think they can win 4 tough games in a row against teams that can throw well.
No. And Oregon's on that. I mean, that's the thing. I think Alabama, Ohio, maybe. I don't know if whoever wins this is going to legit earn it, because that's
Ohio
the biggest
State.
question. how many teams could honestly win 4 tough games in a row?
Indiana, I don't know.
Yeah.
The other team, they dropped the 2 openers, or their first 2. Notre Dame's looking fantastic now. Maybe they could go on a heater and do it. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. But Porter, thanks for being with us here.
You're welcome.
Everybody, find him at the Hawg Talk. We'll link all of his stuff, socials to this on YouTube and Twitter. Again, thanks for being here. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. Thank you.